Hello everybody, and welcome back to Minecraft. So in the last episode, we made some power suits, and then we went and fought some pirates. So in this one, we're going to carry on with a little bit of the power suiting, and I'm going to show you around what I've been doing so far. Let's get to it. Okay, so what I have been doing since the last one, I've been doing a fair amount of stuff. First off, I've finished off our farm, which is coming on very nicely. So I'm going to show you around that quickly. It's fairly similar to our old one. We've got our harvester here, our fertilizer, but I've put some range upgrades on these things because these are doing this entire huge plot. So I put some of these range upgrades on. They're not too hard to make. What's the recipe for this thing? Emeralds, raw plastic, redstone, gold, blah blah blah. So this is a 11 radius increase one. So that'll do like a 21 by 21 plot because I've got two of them sort of in that configuration. This is a 19 by 21 plot. Just to do this big load of stuff. A ton of ender pearls mainly. That's the main thing I wanted. And made a room down here just so I could work on the cables without having to fly around. And done the same thing with our planters. Did a slightly less powerful upgrade just so I could have a few different farms. So I've got 4 main farms doing different stuff and some smaller ones if I wanted to make something smaller as I go along. Cool. And then I've also worked on another animal farm out here. Same idea again as the old one with the breeder, the chronotyper moving the babies, and the grinder killing them once they grow up. And bloody hell, that's a lot of babies. We've got quite a surplus of wheat at the moment, so that makes sense. But yeah, I found 4 cows and 4 sheep. Thought that'll do nicely. Should all be good. The idea was I wanted to kind of enclose this thing off just so they wouldn't escape so much. They're still kind of glitchy sometimes, but yeah, it seems to be working out okay. Also got some horses, which were tied to these things just for the sake of aesthetics, but one of them's kind of wandered off. Oh, is that him over there? I think that's him. Hey horsey, how you doing? You alright? You good? He's kind of chilling. Yay, go! Go! I haven't given you a saddle. You don't do anything. Oh well, they're just kind of there. It's not like I'm actually going to use the things because this jetpack's way faster, but you know. The other thing I did, well, apart from all this cool furniture from the Mr. Crayfish's furniture mod, some of this stuff is actually really cool. Just sort of tables and chairs and that thing that you can sit down in because reasons. Why not? Just for the hell of it, to make it look a bit more like a farmhouse. There's some cool stuff in here as well, like lamps, which only work on bedside cabinets or if you give them redstone signal, but whatever. And a stereo. Yeah. Get some music going, which can barely hear. My god, all those guys are loud. Shut up, I'm trying to listen to the radio. Ah, screw you guys. Anyway, yeah, the chicken farm is basically the same as the one outside with the breeder, the chronotyper, and the grinder over there. Had to move the grinder out a bit because it grinds up in a 5x5 space, so I've had it in that wall. It kind of ground up the adults too. I did have 4 in there, but now there's only... well, there was 2. Shit, I think one of them's died. Oh no, he's just trapped in the hopper. Yeah, they're walking around on hoppers to collect all of the eggs. Oh, that's cool. I think if 2 of them grow up in there, they get bread before they get ground up. Oh well. Yeah, the hoppers catch the eggs that they lay. I did think originally that they only laid eggs if they're on grass. Turns out not the case. So I'm getting a ton of eggs. Efagug? Yeah, I've got like 109, which is pretty much all from this little system, just having them walk around on hoppers. And then the hoppers are going into these... Hey, chicken. You right there? Oh, whatever, he's just there. Yeah, they're on these logistical transporters. They're pretty easy to make. I think it's just steel and enriched alloy. But you're going to need a configurator to kind of work with the hoppers properly. So if you shift right click on the very top part of this pipe, not like down there, not on the hopper, just on this very top part of the pipe, then it will switch between modes. So we've got not connected, normal, push, and pull. And we want this on pull mode, so it'll be pulling items out of the hopper. That's pretty self-explanatory. None does nothing. Normal only works if whatever's attached to it is actively pushing items out, which for some reason the hoppers don't. And push pushes things into the inventory, pull pulls things out of the inventory. Cool. And that's hooked up downstairs, just to a chest here, onto another logistical transport, which is pushing items into the chest, which is then getting picked up by an import bus. So I could have just had a load of chests and import buses to each hopper, but that seemed like a waste of resources to me, so I just made pipes instead. And realistically, I could have made it so the pipes grabbed all the stuff out of the grinders as well, but well, whatever. Other stuff I've been doing, I've done some tidying up in our basement rooms, just a little bit. It's still not very pretty. It's sort of limestoned it up, because I thought it looked a little bit nicer, and it's a lot easier to do now. I've got the one of equal trade. It's kind of like, I want this wall to be a different colour. Bing, done. And sort of connects all this up so I'm not walking through a big ravine every time. And redecorated, yeah, and our blaze spawner is going to be going soon actually. I've got a plan to get rid of that and put it somewhere else so we're not constantly hearing blazes. What else? Stuff upstairs I've been working on. Get back up there. But working on quite a lot of stuff up here to get the force field emitters for the, what's it called? The cool armor energy shields. Because we needed a load of tesseracts for that. So I decided to automate that process of making tesseracts, which arguably took a lot longer than just making the tesseracts, but hey-ho. So what I did for that was, first off I needed some sort of liquid storage, and that's what these things are. These are dynamic tanks from Mechanism. It's made out of these dynamic tank blocks, which is a bunch of steel, and then dynamic glass blocks, which I think is just one of them and some glass. So you just sort of do them in a big multi-block, make the frame out of the dynamic tank blocks, make the walls out of glass. I think you can just use the tank blocks if you're not bothered about windows. Then left a 4x4 gap in the middle. I think you can pretty much make these any size you want, really. You can even make them odd shapes as long as there's a gap in the middle. And then you need these ones on the outside, which are the valves, which are going to let you pump fluids in and out. And then I've got my ME system transporting the fluid around with these. So this is an ME fluid storage bus. So that's works the same as the ones that are hooked up to our barrels. They're item storage buses. And this one's just for fluid. So any fluid that gets pumped into the ME system is picked up and gets put into this tank, because they don't have any other way to store fluid. The drives that are in our ME system won't store fluids, only items. There are fluid storage buses as well, but I like having tanks. They look cool. So yeah, anything that's pumped into the thing will get put into these tanks as long as it has a tank to go into. So I don't know, if I started pumping in water, it wouldn't really go anywhere. Probably wouldn't even suck it up. And then all the stuff in the tanks is getting pumped out into our fluid transposers. That's what pumps the fluid into the tesseracts and the redstone energy cells, and that's just done with ME interfaces. So yeah, that thing, it knows if it puts in an empty cell frame, it will get a full one back, and same with buckets in case I should need them. That's just sort of pumping out with this mechanical pipe, the fluid one that we were using for the sewage system in the old farm. And same thing with the configurator, it's just pulling out of there and pushing into there. Cool, so that's just constantly filling up, because this thing won't really work unless I tell it to, or unless it gets an item in anyway. So not wasting anything there, and same with the ender one. So the way I am getting fluid into these things is with the magma crucibles, as we saw. And I set these up in kind of a different way. This is kind of a new thing, which is very cool. So this is exporting redstone to make me the liquid redstone stuff, just the basic import bus. Then I've got a fluid import bus, which is pulling the liquid out of the top of the magma crucible and into the system, which will then go into the tanks. But I didn't want to, turn all of my redstone into liquid redstone, so I put a level emitter on here. Now this thing is very cool. Essentially what this will do is let you keep an eye on the levels. So what I told this thing is to keep an eye on redstone. And the amount is 512, can change that to whatever we want. And then this thing is the main important thing. So I've taught to emit when levels are above or equal to limit. So essentially, when I have more than 512 redstone in my inventory, then this thing will emit a redstone signal to wherever it's pointing, which is up into this magma crucible, which I've told on the redstone control to put it on high, so this machine will only run when it's getting a redstone signal. So when my redstone is more than 512, this will emit a redstone signal, letting this machine run. As soon as I go below 512 redstone, this will turn off and stop the machine, so I won't use up all my redstone. And I've done the same thing over here for ender pearls, but I've put it a bit less, seeing as I don't need quite so many of them in. Cool. So that's just gonna kind of make fluid as long as I've got enough of whatever I want in stock. Cool. I've also made this fluid terminal here, which basically just lets me keep an eye on what fluids I've got in. You can drag buckets out down here if you want. Just for the hell of it. I didn't actually really need that thing, but oh well, I've got it anyway. So I am going to attempt to make the tesseracts. That's the one that I did from when I was making all the automation for it. So let's see if this works. How many do I need? I need 7 more, I believe. 5, 6, 7. And hopefully that should all work fine, provided I've got enough ender pearls and stuff. Let's have a look at our crafting monitor. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's all working fine. Oh, the hardened glass too. That was something that I needed to automate with the induction smelter, because that requires 2 inputs. Turns out it's absolutely fine if you just use the ME interface right next to it. Just literally put 2 of the item into the crafting window thing and the thing you want in the output, and it works fine so long as you've got this thing set to get both the inputs from the bottom. So if you change it to, let's see, just green, that's not so great. Change it to just purple, not so great. So just on blue to get both of them in, and that's put the wrong thing in now. Oh god, what have I done? I've messed up this entire thing. Okay, yeah, it's fine. Oops. I think I just kind of screwed that thing up. It's probably going to be really confused now. I'll just leave that as it is. Okay. Yes, that should be making me tesseracts just fine. I think it already has made me a couple tesseract. Yeah, it's already made me 1. Awesome. So I'm going to leave that to its business, and then I'll put the force field emitters onto the suit. Awesome. But the main thing I want to work on today is power, because if I go down here, I've got almost everything hooked up, except over here I've got a break in my cable, and this is the cable that's leading off to our ore smelting facility and our quarry. So we're not getting any ingots in at all from all the stuff we've got in our inventory. So yeah, because it's draining way too much power. If I put cable in that, I start losing power dramatically, losing everything. Since almost all these machines are upgraded now, and take a 200 RF of tick, which is not an insubstantial amount of power for the amount that I've got. I've got a heck of a lot of machines running now, especially with the ME system with all these extra buses and interface and things. It takes up a lot of power. So we're going to need to find a good way to make some. So I've made a start on that, and I've also upgraded our power storage with this thing, the capacitor bank, or capacitor banks really. And actually this is, oh, it's actually draining power because some of my automation is running up there. Whatever. These things are really cool though. I really like using these things so far. So let's me just sort of, rather than using a ton of energy cells where I had to input into each one and output each one as well, I can just sort of pump it into one and out of another. So the way you make these things is with an alloy smelter. And this thing's down here because it's a little bit buggy with the mechanism cable. It did sort of work. It would just kind of go, boom, I've got full power, and then it wouldn't take any more. And I had to like break and replace the cable before it got to this thing, and then it would suddenly go, boom, I've got power again, and then it would drain it all. It was weird. I don't know. So to make these things, we need electrical steel, and that's what this alloy smelter is for. So to make electrical steel, which is different from the mechanism steel that we usually make, we need coal and silicon and iron, I think. So I'm just going to go and grab some iron. I should still have a turn. Yeah, I've still got thousands. Awesome. Let's go and shove this in here, and that should be fine. It is iron, right? Yeah, it's cool. So I'm using a slightly different kind of silicon. The one from Applied Energetics that we were making, smelting Certus quartz, the pulverized Certus quartz dust, that works fine, but I figured it's kind of expensive to be using up all that Certus quartz in these as well. So I made this thing as well, which is a sag mill. This grinds things up into other items, and it can make quite a lot of cool stuff out of certain things, but it's all kind of down to chance, which kind of sucks. So we get silicon from sand when it grinds up that. So if I chuck that in there, that'll run and make me some silicon, hopefully. There's about a 50% chance I'll get silicon out of it. And I think that's all you get out of sand. Things like cobblestone can end up giving you a ton of weird stuff. You can have to, like, 3 or even 4 outputs sometimes in a go, so that's quite cool. And I'm going to move this capacitor over, which I just took out. Tell it capacitor, you go in there, because that lets it run faster and use more power and whatever. So the alloy smelter, how do we have to make that again? I can't even remember. How did we make that? I shall have a look. I don't think it was too bad. Alloy smelter. Oh yeah, it wasn't too bad. It's any kind of brick. Copper, furnace, machine chassis, and basic capacitor. Basic capacitor is copper, gold, and redstone. That's easy enough. Machine chassis was iron and iron bars. Pretty easy. So the capacitor banks were a little bit tougher, especially because I had to get this electrical steel, which I had some of, because I think it spawns quite frequently in dungeon chests. So I did have a couple already. But now I'm going to make some more of these. I've set up the auto crafting to do it. Recipe's a little bit annoying. if I look it up in NAI. So you have to make tin, block of redstone, it's easy enough. The double-A capacitors are electrical steel and polarized coal. And the basic capacitors were redstone, gold nuggets, and copper ingots. Not too bad, but a little bit annoying. So I'm just going to tell that to make me a whole bunch of them. And let it do its thing. Hopefully that will make me one fairly quickly. Yeah, it should do. Just needs to pulverize me up some coal, which takes a little while because our pulverizer is kind of slow. It's kind of the main thing that slows down our little automatic crafting thing up there. Everything else has got speed upgrades on it, but not this thing. What can you do? Has it made me one yet? Yeah, there we go. It's made me one. Awesome. I'll leave that to do its thing because I want a ton of these. So the cool thing about these capacitor banks is this is all just one big multi-block. You can kind of just plonk them down wherever you want, and then it suddenly realizes that it's got it. So that's pretty cool. I can take these back with the crescent hammer with a shift click. So if you look at the total megajoules, I've got 8,500,000 megajoule potential storage, which is equivalent to about 85 million megajoules, 10 redstone flux to a megajoule, so 85 million redstone flux, which is what most of our machines are measured in. I think all this stuff is measured in redstone flux. Yes, it is. So at least that's a nice, easy conversion. The cool thing about these is you can change the input and output. The maximum input and output is determined by how many capacitor banks you've got in, just like the capacity. So if I stick this down, it'll go up from 1700 to 1800 max input and output, and the total storage capacity will go up as well. So plonk that down. Oops, plonk that down. Let's go up to 9 million megajoule storage, and the max input and output has gone up to 1800. So yeah, you can just kind of choose how much you want to put input and output here. You can just change this around if you only want a certain amount going out, which is awesome for making buffers and things. So if I put one of these next to my quarry, I could tell it that it can only have a certain amount of power, and do it very precisely. So like, I don't know, say I'm losing X amount of power, and I need to only give it, I don't know, 30 megajoules a tick. I can do that. I can just plonk one of these down and output it into the quarry. So that's pretty cool. I really like these things. I'm really enjoying them. And with the insane amount of storage, that's pretty useful as well. So when nothing's running, this will just fill up, and then I'll have loads of spare stuff when all this stuff is running. Very nice. But all the same, we are still losing power, even just with this bit of automation we've got going on. So I need to make some more power. Simple as that. And the way we are going to do that is with a nuclear reactor. Unfortunately, it's not one that's incredibly deadly and dangerous like I usually quite enjoy building at this stage. It's like, I've got all this cool stuff, let's make something dangerous and risk the chance of blowing it all up. But it is actually a very cool mod. So I'm going to clear out a bit of space for that and then work on a nuclear reactor. Alright, well I couldn't really find a decent place to put it. I haven't really got a good room for this, so it's just going to kind of go here for now. And I am probably, well, I know I'm going to end up making a big nuclear facility at some point, so it's not going to stay here, that's for sure. I'll figure that out another time, because this is just going to be our first prototype reactor. We're going to be making much bigger and better ones as we progress. So we're going to be needing a few things for this, and this is all from the Big Reactors mod, which is surprisingly cool. Like I said, these reactors don't explode, but it is actually a hell of a lot of fun putting these things together. So we're going to be needing reactor casing, and that requires graphite, iron ingots, and yellorium. Okie dokie. Well, graphite's not too bad, I don't think. Yeah, we just smelt up some coal. Okay, so let's grab a ton of that. Coal. I'll just make, like, I don't know, 2 stacks of graphite. That'll be more than enough. Probably far more than enough. Actually, I'm assuming this will work in a smelter, right? Yeah, let's make me graphite. Awesome. And the yellorium we already have, actually. So you get that from yellorite ore, which you dig up out the ground. And also, I believe if you pulverize and smelt uranium, then it also gives you yellorium. Or if you smelt up uranium, I think it gives you yellorium. So that's fine. We've got a ton of that, yeah. Should probably smelt up some of this yellorium dust, though. Let's just stick all this in the smelter as well, I think. That'll be more than enough. But all that can smelt up as well, once I have enough room in there. Anyway, back to big reactors. Big reactor. That's not how you spell that. It's got a space in it. Okay, so reactor casing. Bing. And that's just iron. Yeah, that's just iron. Cool. So how many are we going to be needing of these? We're going to be needing a decent amount. I'm not that bothered about making too many of these, just because I'm going to be building a lot more reactors in the future, so a ton of it is fine with me. We're also going to be needing one reactor controller. So what's that? Reactor casing, redstone, and diamonds. Okie dokie. So reactor casing on the corners. Just need one of them. Cool. We're also going to be needing reactor power tap. That's where the power comes out of. So that's just redstone and casing. Ding, ding, ding. Cool. Access port. That's where you put the fuel in. Casing, piston, and a chest. Easy enough. How many pistons, really? Oh. Piston. Make me one, please. Begin. There we go. And is that casing around the outside like so? Yes, cool. And back to big reactors. Big R. I want to make some reactor glass just because it looks a bit nicer. Why not? Wait, does this have to be a specific kind of glass? Oh no, I can use normal glass. I probably don't have any actually. I tend to go through glass quite quickly. Yeah, I don't. Okay, maybe a ton of that as well way there. So that was reactor casing. I want maybe about half of this to be glass, I think. Let's just ding ding. Wait for some more of that craft and leave it to its business. Actually, how is this stuff doing? It's all grinding up okay. Yeah, I can stick some more of that in. And come on. There we go. I love how quick these smelters are once to put the upgrades in. They just burn through everything. I should really put my glass on one of those, really, but oh well. That should be enough for now. 16. We'll need more than that, but I'll make that in a minute. What else do we need? Big reactors. Come on. Other thing we're going to be needing, yellorium fuel rods. We're going to be needing those. That's graphite, yellorium 9. That's fine. How am I going to be needing these? I'll be needing... Ooh... 5x5. So 1, 2, 3... 1, 2, 3... 1, 2, 3... That... might be enough. Let's make like 12 of those. That should be good. I haven't quite thought about what design I'm doing yet. Computer port we don't need. Coolant port we don't need. If I got everything I need. Red net port I don't need. Control rods I do need. Graphite, yellorium, and reactor casing. Okie dokie. In you go. And I think that is about everything. Yeah, I might have forgotten something, but I'll remind myself when I start building this. So I'm going to carry on making some of this, more of this reactor casing and reactor glass, and I'll be back in a sec. Okay, I think I've got just about everything I need. So first we need to lay down the reactor casing. And we're going to make a 5x5 reactor. It comes with these pretty much, well, most decent sizes, as long as it's you know, square-ish, like rectangular or cuboid or big tall one, whatever. As long as it's vaguely square, you can't have it in a weird L shape, I don't think. But you know, maybe you can. That'd be interesting shaped reactor. And then reactor glass in the middle. So it's pretty much the same as a lot of multi-blocks. Just kind of build the frame out of one thing, the middle out of another. Again, I'm not entirely sure if you have to use reactor glass if you don't want to. I think you can just make this all out of reactor casing, but you know, reactor glass is fun. I would like the idea of being able to see into my reactor. How many need to go up here? I need to go up to the roof on this one. Ding ding. And I've just realised I haven't really made this easy on myself. It'll be fine. And here on this corner. Ding. That's in the wrong place completely. Kind of failed on that one a bit, didn't I? It's not really how that works. There we go. And on those corners, is that all the frame done? Yeah, that's all the frame. Cool. So now I'm going to leave them for now. You'll see why. Then I think I want to have the power coming out from that side, so I'll put the power tap down here. Also, if you right click on this thing at any time, it'll tell you what it needs. So you can see I need control rods. There's at least one thing that I need. Also need a set of other stuff, but you know, if you just kind of put stuff in, then it will tell you what you're missing, which is kind of useful. I really like that. So what else do I want to have in here? Well, let's put the fuel rods in now. Well, let's start off with just one in the middle for now, and I'll show you how this thing works, kind of. Let's put some reactor glass in on the top around that. And then the fuel rod's going to come down from that reactor control rod. Bing. Then, did I fill this in yet? I can't even tell. connected textures. Sometimes I just can't tell where I filled stuff in or not. Yeah, that's just going to come out of there. I'll have all the important stuff in here, I think. So I need a reactor controller, reactor access port to put the fuel in, and that should be everything, I think, if I fill this up. Except not quite, because I need to put some coolant in this thing. So it should actually tell us what else we need if I click this right. Not valid to yes. Block is not valid for use in the machine's interior, and it's talking about the air blocks. So I need to fill this thing with some kind of liquid that's going to cool it, because this is a passively cooled reactor. It's basically just going to cool itself by whatever liquid we put in here. And I've kind of just put that there so I can not get washed away by the current. Come on, get in there. Get in there. Let's take the jetpack off. There we go. Get in there. There we go. And there. I want to fill all the top up with source blocks. You don't have to fill the whole thing up with source blocks, just the top bits. And probably a good idea to get it, well, I like to get it as even as possible. I think pretty much as long as there's some flowing water in all the spaces, then it's absolutely fine. It doesn't have to be a source block in every single top spot, but you know, I like to do it because it looks nicer. It looks more even. There. One there. And one for the middle. And that's all flowing over. That's fine. Dink. 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 There we go. Come on. You done? And that's turned into our big multi-block now. All the seams have gone. So if I were to just break one of these, see all the seams come back. But once blocking the final block, it's now our multi-block because it's all smooth and stuff. Cool. So now if we look at our reactor controller, and we can see what all these things are. Let's turn NEI off there so we can see a bit better. So we have cool fuel status. So that's going to tell us what our fuel's doing. Casing heat is quite important. The higher the heat of the casing, the more energy you're going to get out of it. And then there's core heat, which is also very important. The higher the core heat, the more fuel you're going to end up using in this thing. And then there's energy buffer, which is just sort of how much energy is stored internally. But I'm not going to worry about that because I'm just going to hook this thing straight up with cables. And just plonk some. Let's see, where am I going with this thing? I need to just put it into the input. Let's take that one back. You come back, please. Come on. There we go. Come along, cable. Which one's my import cable? That's my import cable. I've run out. God damn it. Planning. This did not plan. Cable. Don't need the elite stuff. I'm not sure why I made that actually. It's pretty much pointless with all the stuff I've got going on. I just made it in case there was a bad energy buffer, but I don't think there is. Yeah, that's my input. Oh, I forgot to mention about this, the inputs and outputs on this thing, now I think about it. If we grab our crescent hammer, which I've already got on me. Yeah, there is a special wrench for this mod as well, but the crescent hammer works fine. For the inputs and outputs, usually when you just kind of connect a cable to it, it'll do that blue one, and that's the input. But if you right click any of the blocks with the crescent hammer, blue is input, orange is output, and red is ignore. So if I put a cable down there, it will just ignore it. So yeah, it's automatically connected to this one. Like I said, it tends to default to output, but on red it will just ignore it. So you can run cables right by it without having to, have it connect and stuff and put covers on and all that rubbish. Just thought I'd mention that. Anyway, let's connect that up. Is that all connected up? That'll fine. That's all good. That's going into the input. Cool. Coming out of the reactor power tap. Good. Okay, so we can pretty much just go ahead and fire this thing up after we fill it up with some fuel. So let's grab some uranium. That's what we're going to fuel it with. And we're just going to stick one in for now. So we want this to be an inlet mode and put one fuel into there. Just going to stick one in because sometimes it can take quite a while to go through and you don't just want to break the whole thing and lose all your fuel. So we have one fuel rod. The max capacity that we could have is 12,000 millibuckets. One ingot is equal to one bucket, which is 1,000 millibuckets. Cool. So we can turn this thing on and activate it. It's alive. Now it's going to start building up heat and also generating us power. Awesome. So if we look at, how did I check the power on this thing? There was oh yes, this thing. This is going to tell us how much power we're outputting once this thing gets up to heat. And it looks like it has already. Wow, really? Is that it? That sucks. Jeez. Our casing heat is terrible. Because, well, this is a pretty inefficient design. It's one single fuel rod surrounded by water. It's really not going to give you a lot of power. That's going to be us 62 redstone flux per tick. Or 62.8 redstone flux per tick. Yeah, that ain't going to cut it. Like I said, these machines use 200 RF per tick each. We're needing a lot more power than this. And this is where this mod gets kind of fun, because you just kind of start messing around with the reactor until you kind of get something that you like. So we want to bring up our casing heat. Our core heat is pretty good, because that's consuming a tiny, tiny amount of our fuels. What's that? 0.0069 millibuckets per tick. Wow, that is actually really good. So that is, yeah, that single ingot is going to last us quite a while with that kind of fuel ratio. But that core heat is so terrible, we're getting far too little power out of it. With that much power coming out of it, there's no reason to even have it. So let's deactivate this thing. It'll start powering down, and then we can just basically just break into this thing. You really don't need to worry about what you're doing with this thing massively. Actually, you know, I'm just going to grab a sponge to get rid of all of this stuff. Oh, just turn any air back on. This is a random little thing that you can do, which is awesome for getting rid of it. I've already made a ton of these when I was clearing out some stuff with the quarry. This is just, whoops, come on. This is wool and a slime ball, which is really cool. It's dead easy to make, and they're so useful. If you've got a load of water, like I had down in my quarry, I had to it was freaking out with all the water I had, so I ended up sponging it all up. But you just kind of stick these down anywhere, and bing, water's gone. It sucks up all the nearby water. However, it's a little bit glitchy because it'll leave any running water, and it won't refresh. What you have to do is update the block by putting another block down next to it, and then it'll clear up. Or you can just put another sponge back, which is kind of cool. You can use these sponges to clear out lava, though they will burn up instantly when they suck up lava. So, you know, still cool though. Let's just get rid of all this stuff too. And come on, you go away too. Get rid of all the water. Awesome. So, in order to make our reactor a lot more efficient, I'm going to stick a ton more fuel rods in it, because that'll generate me a ton more heat. So I'm going to stick 4 more fuel rods into this thing. So again, we need the fuel rod controllers at the top. And I didn't make any more of them, did I? No, I didn't. I should go and get some more of them. Fill all this back in with glass. Oop, that was in the wrong place. Think. There we go. Cool. So, like I said, I don't really have to worry about breaking this thing. It'll still keep all the fuel in it. So that little bit of fuel that I had in it already. Oh, it's still draining out power because it's still hot. Cool. Yeah, that little bit of fuel that I had in it, it's still in there. Just that single ingot. So we've still got 988 millibuckets in there. So let's turn this thing on and see what it looks like now that there is 5 fuel rods in there and 4 lines of water. Let's see how that works. Turn it on. Bing. Okie dokie, well, that's going up nicely. I'll need to wait for this to reach a decent temperature, I think. Maybe. Huh, wow. This thing sucks. Oh, it's going up, slowly. Not that quickly, though. Is that really all the core heat we're going up to? We're going up to 47 core heat? Okay. Well, after that tiny change of adding some more fuel rods and reducing the amount of water, we haven't increased our casing heat at all, but we have reduced our core heat quite a lot. So essentially we're not really making any more power, particularly, but we are using a lot less fuel because we brought our core heat down. Huh. That's honestly not what I expected. Weird. More power, and getting the core heat down so you use less fuel. That's the idea anyway. So, I think what I am going to be getting on with is trying to make this thing a lot more, I don't know, either efficient or inefficient. As long as I'm getting more power out of it, I don't really care. I'll probably just burn through a lot of fuel so I can get all my ore processing done, because I've got quite a lot to do. It's all been kind of building up, so I can turn that back on for a while. So I'm going to keep messing around with this for quite a while, I think. And then I'm going to go on to making an active cooled reactor. This one is a passive cooled reactor with just the blocks of the fluid in. You can use lots of different types of blocks of fluid. So I'm just using water, which is a pretty terrible coolant, apparently. But you can use things like, I could use that resonant ender. I might be able to use that that redstone fluid as well. There's a special one that it adds. It's like cryothium fluid or something, which is freezing stuff. If you like have a bucket and you put it down, it turns into ice and snow and stuff. It's really cool. So yeah, but I'm going to be able to making an active cooled one afterwards, which is got a big turbine. You pump water into it, which turns into steam, which then goes into the turbine and drives the turbine to make more power. And it gives you a heck of a lot more power than these things do. Even when you do set these things up right and don't only get 63 redstone flux out of it, you can get a lot better out of these. Yeah, so I'm going to move on to that, I think, after messing around with this one so I get enough power out of it. Okay, so yeah, I think that's going to do it for this one. So thank you very much for watching. As always, I'm SuperStrewdel, and I'll see you in the next one. Catch you later.